Hey, happy Tuesday. Hope it's a good one for you. It's a beautiful day. It's good to be alive, isn't it? Glad you're with me today. Come on into my little world for a moment and let's just share a few thoughts together here very quickly. There's an interesting event in the 8th chapter of Mark in the ministry of Jesus. Kind of one that has baffled me a little bit along the way, made me stop and think at least about some things. As Jesus came to the town of Bethsaida, in the middle of his work, it's in the 8th chapter of Mark, and he came to Bethsaida, and it says they brought to him, in verse 22, they brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. So it goes on to say, so he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town, and when he put spit on his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. And he, speaking of the blind man, he looked up and said, I see men like trees walking. Then he put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up. And he was restored and saw everything clearly. It's unusual. Jesus called the dead to life, and they came to life. Called the lame to walk, and they walked. He just spoke the word, and people were healed. He touched them, and leprosy was gone. But on this occasion, it was kind of a double whammy situation. The man didn't see clearly. Jesus touched him, put spit on his eyes, put his hands on him, and the man didn't see clearly. I said, man, they just kind of look like trees walking around. And then the second time, and he saw clearly. I don't think it's a question of Jesus' ability to heal at all in any regard, but why is it there? What is it I need to get out of this? Well, I was thinking about the time I reached into my 40s. Oh, yeah, you didn't even think I was 40 years old, did you? Anyway, when I got into my 40s, and I'd sit at the breakfast table, and I would have to hold the newspaper out at great length, tilt my head a certain way to be able to read the type. But vanity didn't want to admit anything, and my wife looked over at me one day and she said, you're going to the optometrist. And so I did. Ultimately went to the optometrist, did all the eye examination stuff, and when he got through with his examinations and different things, he looked at me and he said, let me say an ugly word to you. I thought, what does that mean? He said, bifocals. Oh, no, bifocals. That can't be. I'm 40-some years old, and I haven't ever worn glasses outside of sunglasses, and I looked really cool in them. Bifocals? And those advertisements and statements about, what do they call that? Presbyopia, where old people's eyes don't focus right. Maybe your distance vision gets a little bit blurry, and you definitely can't read up close, and you got to find something out here, and you're trying to work it around because nothing really works exactly right. Well, life changed. But I found out wearing glasses wasn't all that big a deal. And actually, bifocals they'd changed. You don't necessarily always have to have all these different lines in your glasses, bifocals, trifocals, quadrifocals, I don't know, whatever focals they've got out there and all. And ultimately, the eye doctor said, let's put you in progressives. I like that. I'm a progressive sort of guy. But what it means is your eyes find the place in the lens where at certain magnifications or adjustments you can read, and it varies according to the distance away from you. There's not those lines across there and all of that. It worked. When I first began to wear them, I felt like I was walking in a fishbowl, but after a little bit, you learn to wear them, and it worked. And while the vanity was still there a little bit, part of it was diminished because suddenly I could see clearly. I wasn't having to strain to read things anymore. I wasn't having to turn my head or back up or get it just the right distance to be able to see things right anymore. I could see clearly. They say it was Benjamin Franklin who invented bifocals. At least he he drew them to the attention of the public, and he wore them himself, as they put two different pieces of glass in within the frame in your glasses, so that you could read something up close and you could see at a distance. And so it's been a beneficial thing to a lot of people for a long time. I don't know whether Benjamin Franklin actually invented the things. There's some question about that. Doesn't really matter, I guess. But he wore them and began to see clearly. I guess what comes down within this is the value of being able to see clearly. Not just with your eyes, but with your mind and your understanding. That we could see clearly. You're going to break out in song right now? I can see clearly now? Well, you can save that for a little bit later. I'll try not to do it on here for you. But I think we all know how valuable it is to be able to see clearly. And I think if we get a message out of this, that even if we're just seeing partially, we're not seeing a very good picture. That it is important that we see and that we see clearly. And with Jesus, it is especially true. And there's always the power within him for us to see and see clearly if we lean upon him. Sometimes we may not see very clearly, but it's usually because we just haven't gotten to where we need to be. But if we'll look, we'll study, we'll draw from him, and we'll be honest, he gives us the opportunity to see clearly. Put it into your effort. There's no point running around not seeing things very clearly when the opportunity is there. Put your spiritual glasses on, or your literal ones, and let's work on seeing clearly. I'm still not going to sing. Okay, glad you're with me today. I hope it's a day that you see everything as clearly as possible. Thanks for being with me. We'll look forward to more down the road.